So year eights, we're going to be doing our last lesson on genre today. If you think about all the different genres we've looked at, we started off with horror, we've done action and adventure, we've done science fiction, science fantasy. Yesterday we did we did humour. Today we are moving on to romance. So, half of all paperback books that are sold are romantic novels. People like reading about romance. And the traditional pattern of romance is as follows. So, they'd have a man and a woman meeting, they fall in love, something happens, some sort of problem, they fall out of love, and they fall back in love afterwards forever. A romantic heroine, so the female character, tends to be someone that the readers can identify with, and a romantic hero, someone that they could fall in love with. That's the traditional type. Obviously, more modern types, you might have same-sex couples, younger, older people. Doesn't really matter so long as you've got two people meeting and falling in love. Now, when we're writing romance, it's really important to choose your vocabulary carefully to make it sound as romantic as possible. And sometimes it is a bit stereotypical, a bit slushy and a bit over the top. But that's one of the features of the romantic genre. So we've got 5 sentences on the board, and what I'd like you to do is copy them out, and then from the words that are in the brackets, I want you to choose what you think would be the most suitable for a piece of romantic writing. So the first one, they something into each other's eyes, they gazed, they stared, or they peered. Their first something was at a disco, their first encounter, their first meeting, their first confrontation. He turned and gave her a something look, a lingering look, a dragging look, a long, slow look. They something outside, they wandered outside, they ran outside, they strolled outside. And number 5, the moonlit sky only made the day more perfect, more cloudy, or more dark. So just put this on pause for a minute, copy out the sentences, and choose what you think is the most romantic sounding word to go in the gap. So I think the most romantic ones. Number 1, they gazed into each other's eyes. Stared is a bit intense, and peering is almost like what you'd do if you're looking down at a microscope at something. Their first encounter was at a disco. A meeting makes it sound a bit formal. Confrontation is sometimes more of an argument type of meeting. He turned and gave her a lingering look. You could have had long and slow. Lingering just means it just went on for that little bit too long. So it's sort of got the same meaning, but the word itself sounds a little bit more romantic. For number 4, you could have had they wandered outside or they strolled outside. Both of them quite a slow walk. You can imagine the couple hand in hand. They ran outside. Not quite such a romantic image that we're creating there. And number 5, the moonlit sky only made the day more perfect. It would also make the day probably a bit more cloudy and dark, perhaps, but we want it to sound romantic, so we'll go for the word perfect there. So what I'd like you to have a go at doing is writing a short story in the romantic genre. Now, we've got 3 suggestions on the board, and like I said before, they are all a bit slushy, a bit stereotypical, but that's what we're going for with our romance. You don't have to do one of these ideas. You might come up with your own ideas. You might draw on personal experience. So some suggestions then: a first meeting, eyes meeting across a crowded room. You might see someone. It might be somebody new who starts at school and you see them across the hall or across the classroom. Might be when you're maybe a little bit older at a supermarket, both people putting out their hands to take the same product and they touch. Not so great at the moment. We don't need to be getting that close to people in the supermarket, but if we think back to before coronavirus times, then this may happen. They might start up a conversation. Last one we've got on here, moving a book from a shelf in the library, seeing the other person through the gap in the shelf. Again, quite a slushy idea, But it's quite a nice idea to start off a romance. Think about how the person might feel. Does the other person then look up and see them watching them through the gap? What happens next? So try and embrace the romantic inside you, and let's have a go at writing a romantic short story. Again, like with all of your work, if you want to send it to me by email, put it on folder. Let's see how romantic you actually are. Okay, should spend probably about 20-25 minutes on this. Off you go.